Alrighty, guys. So after looking at those things and learning the difference between a shape and a form, we are going to get on here to draw our form. That is a jar. Now, this is something that is going to take us 2 weeks to do. So make sure you hold on to this paper because we do not want to have to redo this again next week. So today we're going to draw our three-dimensional form that is a jar on our piece of paper, and then we are going to color our background. Next week, we are going to fill in inside the jar. So do not start drawing inside this jar except for what I show you how to do today. So to start out, what we are going to do, I always recommend you guys start in pencil. What I will start in this marker. You want to have your paper going vertical, so keeping it up and down. We're going to start towards the top of our paper, but we don't want to be at the very, very top. Well, we also don't want to be too far down and be in the middle. So towards the top of our paper, we are going to start with an oval. And this is going to be for the lid of our jar. Sorry about the bell, guys. So that's going to be for the lid of our jar. Don't want it to be too big because we don't want our jar to take up this whole space. We want to leave some of that background space. Then I'm going to do a second smaller oval, or what's called an ellipse, on the inside, and then we're going to start working our way to do the sides of the jar. After I get that second one drawn, I'm going to draw two straight lines down, one from each edge of the lid, and then I'm going to connect these together. But just like up here, how this is a curve, I'm also going to connect the bottom of the jar together with a curve, and it helps me to turn my paper to the side so I can see where I'm connecting to and my hand isn't covering that up. So I've connected that together with a curve. And then to show where kind of the lid, and if you look back on our slide, if you want to see where there's what's called threading on a lid, and that's kind of where the two parts, where the jar and the lid, where they screw together and they attach there. So we're going to draw another kind of curved line across here to show the threading of the lid. And then right up at the top, there are all these little short marks. And we're just going to kind of do that right along the edge on the lid, just to add a little texture and detail. So next, we're going to start drawing the jar. We are going to draw what I call the neck and the shoulders of the jar first, and then we'll continue it down. So come into our lid. I'm going to zoom in here. We're going to come in just a little bit. So I'm going to come in a little shorter. I'm going to do two more straight lines coming down from there, and that's the neck of our jar. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of curve it out and back down. So I'm going to draw a curve out, and I'm going to do that on both sides. I'm going to go over some, and then I'm going to come down. And then I am just going to now continue my jar all the way down, and the longer I make this line, the bigger my jar is. We don't want it to go all the way quite to the bottom of the paper, but you want it to go towards the bottom little part of the paper. So I'm going to kind of come down, draw my line with this one as well. I want to stop them about the same length. We want them to be close to the same. And then we are going to attach them. And just like up here, because this jar is round, if we were looking at it from the top, the bottom is going to look like a curve. And that's what's going to help this look more like a form and not a shape. So I'm going to kind of turn it to the side again. And I'm going to create a slight curve at the bottom. Now this is the main jar part, but because it's glass, we're going to show where there's a couple reflections on the jar. So I'm going to zoom in down here to this bottom corner. And right down here on this corner, I'm going to draw a little reflection in the glass. So I'm going to draw a straight line down right there. A little curve that follows the bottom. And then I'm going to connect these two together also with a curved line, because since a jar is round, all of the reflections on it are going to show up curved, like they're reflecting on that curved surface. And I'm going to do the same thing up here in this top corner. Then that's where I'm going to stop with my jar for today. We are going to add more to this jar, but that's where just the jar we're going to finish with today. If you want to, I would recommend tracing your jar. You can do it in a Sharpie, in a crayon, a colored pencil, but do not trace it out in just like a regular marker, because this is something where that marker may get kind of blurred and blended. So I would trace it with something that's not going to have a problem if it happens to get wet. Then I'm going to go through and I am going to take some sort of coloring material. I would either use crayons or colored pencils, not marker today. We're going to use marker next week, but crayons or colored pencils, and we are going to color in the background. We're going to color in the space around it. And just like how we were talking about with when we learned about Roy G. Biv a couple weeks ago, we're going to be using our Roy G. Biv again today. So I'm going to get out my rainbow colors. Ooh, wrong glue. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. If you don't have indigo, don't worry about it. And I'm going to color in my background. You may color it in any way that you want to using your rainbow colors. But I'm going to go through and I'm going to kind of color mine in. I'm going to go through and kind of make a diagonal pattern of this. So I'm going to kind of start at a corner. And sorry guys, that's kind of light, a little hard to see, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be super hard pressed. Sorry, I'm trying to zoom in there. I'm going to kind of start in a corner and then I'm going to work my way through. Do not color in inside the jar. We need that to stay plain white. We do not want anything inside that jar. You are just giving your jar a rainbow background. So you see how I'm kind of skipping or going over where that is, and I'll keep doing that. So once my green touches it, I'm going to kind of fill in this little space here, being really careful not to get inside the jar. And then it'll continue out the top side. So it's kind of an imaginary line. Go up there, and then I'll fill in. And if you get through and you fill all of your colors, so I've now done the entire rainbow order, but I still have this white space down in the corner over here. I'm just going to repeat the rainbow pattern. So I go back and start over at red and keep filling it in until my white space is gone. And you guys kind of see, I like to color right around the jar, and then I kind of more quickly color in the rest of the space. And that just helps me hopefully help from getting crayon inside the jar because I'm not coloring really fast right next to it. And once you guys finish coloring in your background, that is where we are stopping for today. Put this somewhere safe, and next week you are going to have two options in materials you use. One way I'm going to show you is going to use markers, and they have to be just like regular drawing markers, not permanent markers, and water and a paintbrush. And one way I will just color in with either crayons or colored pencils. So you can do whichever way, but I will say the water and paintbrush way is my preferred way, and it is definitely going to be the most fun way to fill in what we're going to put inside our jar. So you guys get this done, put it somewhere safe, and we'll get working on it again next week.